Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the new film by John Crowley, The Goldfinch. Yes. Hi. My name is Cameron Bailey. I'm the artistic director and the co-head here at TIFF. I want to thank you all for coming out this evening. We begin by acknowledging where we are, the land that we're on. This is the treaty territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation and the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee, the Anishinaabe, and the Huron-Wendat. They've been on this land and taking care of this land for thousands of years, and we are grateful to be a part of this community. A reminder, if you need a reminder, that this film is eligible for the Grolsch People's Choice Award. That is our most important prize here at this festival. People seem to want to get it, so there's one way to do that, and that is by you voting for it. You can go online to tiff.net/vote and vote for your favorite films. Big thank you to Warner Brothers for bringing us The Goldfinch. They've been great partners of ours for years. Thank you to them. And thanks also to John for bringing a new film back. John Crowley was born in Cork, Ireland, and began his career as a theater director. Many of his films have screened here at the festival, including his debut feature, Intermission, back in 2003, Boy A in 2007, Is Anybody There in 2008, and most recently, Brooklyn, a film that went on to great success in 2015. The Goldfinch, his latest film, is an adaptation of a novel by Donna Tartt that some of you may have read. Best-selling novel, adapted for the screen by Peter Strawn, and with the remarkable legend of a cinematographer, Roger Deakins, shooting the film. We can now say the Academy Award-winning Roger Deakins at last. And John Crowley was also able to corral a remarkable cast for the film as well, a cast that includes Ansel Elgort, Sarah Paulson, Luke Wilson, Finn Wolfhard, Jeffrey Wright, and the inimitable Nicole Kidman. It's really such a pleasure to see these remarkable, these talented artists working together, collaborating on this film, and guided to completion with such a deft touch by John Crowley. He's come to introduce it to you this evening. Please join me in welcoming the director of The Goldfinch, John Crowley.
Thank you very much. It was a privilege to direct The Goldfinch, and when I say to you that it was a labor of love, I mean it in the truest sense. I was surrounded by exceptional individuals whose love for what they do considerably lightened the hard work that goes into making any film, much less one as ambitious as this. Nina Jacobson and Brad Simpson, you're naughty, wickedly funny, and the finest producers any filmmaker could ever wish to have by their side. Sue Kroll and Mary Jo Winkler-Jofreda, you did more to get this film up on this screen than I could ever do justice to here tonight. Toby Emmerich, Courtney Valenti, Kevin McCormick, and the entire team at Warner's, thank you so much for supporting the rarest bird, which is a complex drama which is bound for a theatrical release. Ted Hope, you really richly deserve your reputation for being a home for filmmakers, friendly home. Ted Hope and everybody at Amazon, thank you so much for your support. The film is shot by Roger Deakins, he's here somewhere. He's a genius, and you have no idea how much he will hate me saying that. So let's just leave that right there for now, okay? The film is graced with a wonderful cast, and I'd really love to introduce you to some of them. So here we go. Please welcome the delightful Amy Lawrence. the wonderful Willa Fitzgerald. Lovely Ashley Cummins. The great Dennis O'Hare. And next we have Wales's finest export since Richard Burton and Aaron Bernard. The gorgeous Luke Wilson. The wild Finn Wolfhard. Yeah, the one and very, very much the only Sarah Paulson. And I'm not going to use a tired old cliche like our next actor needs no introduction, but she doesn't. She is the magnificent Nicole Kidman. And now, the awesome Oaks Fegley. And the exceptional Ansel Elgort. Thank you so much. It's always a pleasure to screen a film here in Toronto. To premiere one is an honor as well. Thank you for having us, and thank you all for coming tonight, and I really hope you enjoy the film. Thank you.
Well done. Yeah.
Congratulations on the film, to all of you.
Thank
John,
you.
I want to start with you, and if you could just tell us a little bit about what first attracted you to the book and to adapting it into a film.
I had read the book for pleasure. Hadn't considered it in any way cinematically because it's a very powerful novel and it just worked on me as a piece of writing. And I was very struck when the idea of getting involved with the film adaptation about it. The thing that appealed to me, and I was deeply moved in the novel, was it felt like a very original and profound meditation on grief. And the fact that there's this young boy who gets stuck in his grief and begins transferring his emotion onto this object, and that it's not just any old object, it happens to be a priceless work of art. And that felt to me like a fascinating situation that Donna had put her central character into, because the more he holds on to that object, the more his own sense of criminality develops, which speaks to his sense of shame and mistaken belief that he's responsible for his mother's death. And it felt like an incredible bind to put a character in, and completely original. I couldn't think of anything else like it.
Thank you. Nicole, I wanted to ask you about the process of creating a character when there is a previous literary work, if it's based not just on a screenplay and what you come up with the director, but there's also a book. Is that something that you refer to as well, or do you work on a character differently if it's an adaptation like this?
No, I think you work on it the same way. It was being part of this story, I think it's wonderful when you have a source material that's so rich, but you're given the history. You know, you don't have to concoct it or imagine it or work on it because it's already there for you. So a lot of the work is done, which is good. And then, you know, you do the same rehearsal process, you do the same discovery, you do. Everything else is the same.
You make it sound easy. And let's face it, the part didn't play itself. All right?
Your character, a number of the characters in the film really have a duality to them. We see different sides of them, sometimes drastically different. I wonder if you could talk a little bit, and maybe I can get this from you and from the other actors as well, about playing characters who have, in many cases, a dark side, or who have another side that will emerge later in the film, and how you calibrate that, because the audience can't necessarily know what else is in that character until the right moment.
I think you take it moment to moment, and sometimes in life you wear a mask, and sometimes in life you let it show, and we're always playing different parts, you know?
Sarah, your character is quite different from a lot of the other characters we've seen you do. Loved.
I'm not sure what you mean.
I'm not sure what I mean either, but I loved it. And I wondered if you could talk a little bit about creating your character. She's quite something.
Yes, she is indeed quite something. Well, I did look to the text. I mean, Donna Tartt, the screenplay as well. I mean, it was all drawn in there as well, but it was very vividly drawn for me in the book. Donna Tartt used so many, all the adjectives you could ever use to describe a person were used to describe Xandra, and so it was very clear to me, at least from an external standpoint, I knew what she needed to look like, and she needed to be very, very tan, and she needed to have some really...
The tan is striking.
Yeah, square-tipped acrylic nails that made me incapable of doing almost anything. Brushing my teeth, flossing was really difficult. And I really like to floss. So that was a challenge. The wig, the voice, I tried to get my voice a little bit deeper because she's described as having quite a raspy voice. So I spent a lot of time screaming into different pillows in the hotel and worrying that other people were going to think something terrible was happening to me, which you did not. You did not. I'm so glad you're telling me this now. You did? Oh, good. Okay, well, okay. I tried. I really did. Like, I put the shower on. I ran the bath. I was very not conscious of the water situation. And I put my pillows over my head, and I'm sorry about that. Thin walls, yeah. So, I don't know. I think there was a time, when I first read the book, I was in a particular place in my life where I wasn't going outside that much. And the book was really
Bird Box.
No, I wasn't doing Bird Box. I just was sort of lonely. And so I read the book, and it was a great, great, dear friend to me. And I, kept the last 25 pages from being digested because I was so, didn't want to say goodbye to them. So the point is, there was something about Xandra to me when I read it that just spoke to me, which was sort of her animal-like desperation, and there was something sort of feral about her and very young, emotionally young and sort of impulsive, and I don't know, it just spoke to me at the time. I've really become a different person since then, so I no longer connect to that at all.
That's great.
Just kidding.
Nicole, I know that you have to leave early. There's a plane that you have to catch. I just wondered before you go, if you could just talk a little bit about what attracted you to John Crowley as a director and why you wanted to work with him.
Because I've seen so much of his work, and I love how detailed he is and how you cover your ears. Nuanced. His rigorous studying of the text, and I just I was excited, really excited, and I was lucky to be given the chance. So yeah, thank you, John.
I was lucky, but thank you very much.
Thank you, Nicole. And I'm not sure if you have to leave now or if you can.
I have a flight to catch.
Okay, all right. Well, we don't want you to miss your flight.
Thank you for having me.
So thank you. Please thank Nicole Kidman.
Thank you, Dave. And I'm very quietly going to sneak out. But I love you all.
Hard to sneak out from stage, but thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
Nicole Kidman. Actually, Luke, I wanted to ask you about your character as well, because your character's called on to do some pretty ugly things in terms of just parental duties and that kind of thing as well. So he's got a dark side, which we don't immediately see, but we see that he's troubled, and then it really comes out. Can you talk a little bit about how you shaped that role?
Well, one thing that did happen was in Albuquerque, where we were shooting the Las Vegas sequences, I was down in the hotel gym trying to get some exercise, and Sarah was down there, and we didn't really know each other that well, and kind of nodded to each other, and then she walked by me and said, "Come on, baby." And I said, "What are you talking about?" She said, "That's what you say to yourself when you're over there on that machine." And I said, "Yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to encourage myself, I guess, to finish. I'm 47 years old." And she said, "You call yourself baby?" I said, "Hey, I don't know what I call myself."
You called yourself
then-
baby, man. You really
Right,
did.
But then later in the shower, I was like, Jesus Christ. I mean, she's driving me crazy. And then I was like, she's actually turning me into Larry.
All part of my
but,
master plan.
But no, it's, for me, I don't play music, but this was one of those projects where the people that I was working with, Sarah in particular, and then Oaks and Finn and John as a director, where it really felt like there was a real interplay there, and I felt very affected by the work they were doing. Sometimes you can feel like you're kind of going at it alone sometimes when you're working, but this was a project where I really felt kind of tied into the work other people were doing. So in terms of getting to those kind of darker, darker tones that were in the project, I felt, I looked forward to it. And definitely, it's one of those things where you realize when you work on different kinds of projects, or if you work on a comedy, I just find the goals are so much more clear cut. Like you laugh with the people you're doing a scene with, or the people on the crew. They kind of laugh at the work that's being done, and you go home kind of with a good feeling. Where on something like this, you don't have that good feeling. Like the scene with Oaks, where I was physical with him. Even if someone says, that was a good job, or that really, that was powerful, you're not left with a good feeling. So there's for myself personally, there was a sense of kind of, you have to persevere through those kind of feelings that you have inside to just try and get. That's where it's very helpful to have a great text, and also to be able to go back to the book, and then just the very thoughtful direction from John, and also just the questions that he'd ask, and the time he'd take while doing scenes, I found very helpful.
I want to leave a little bit of time. We've only got a couple of minutes, but I want to leave a little bit of time for your questions as well. So if that's okay, we can open it up to you, and we'll bring the lights up a little bit, and then we will take a question. Let's go first here to the gentleman second in from the aisle. Yep. Question, I think, is for you, Finn, about the accent. How did you learn and practice the accent, and maybe for you as well?
Yeah. Well, loud. Yeah. Well, I think, when I started, when I did self-tapes and started auditioning, it said that he had to be a Ukrainian, Russian. There was a character description, and I kind of just went on YouTube and just hoped to God it would be okay. And then I did one in English, like in my regular accent, and it just felt so weird to do it in. I don't think I could ever. I mean, there is no like Boris without the accent, so it was really weird doing it in your own thing. And then we met Christina, our wonderful dialogue coach, who really, I mean, we would be screwed if we didn't have her.
Speak for yourself. We didn't really sit down together, but we did have this lovely tie, which was Christina. But the wonderful thing about that was John was listening to all the work that was going on with Christina, and he was kind of making sure, and I think because he kept us separate, which I think was a really powerful decision, I think he was kind of orchestrating things to make sure that, it would work in the edit with the two of us. I was lucky enough. I've worked in Ukraine and in Russia in the past, so I spent 2 months in both countries, and so I'd stolen that from many years back, and then was like, okay, I better make it convincing now, and so just a lot of hard work, and I really brought the character to life. So I love doing it. I don't know about you, but, yeah.
Great, thank you. All right, we'll take. Is there anyone up in the balcony first? With a question? Okay, let's come down here. Go ahead.
Hi, I wanted to know 2 questions. First off, what was kind of like the funniest moment or story that happened behind the scenes, if there were any? And also, what was the hardest, most challenging scene to act or film?
The 2 questions are: what was the funniest moment behind scenes, and what was the hardest part for each of you in making the film?
It wasn't funny looking back on it, but I think, I'll just say it. It's fine. So we shot in Albuquerque, and we all got there, and it's higher than usual up there, so everyone's nose is bleeding. It was really fun. That being said, but so we're rehearsing, and I feel fine, and then all of a sudden I start vomiting, and I can't stop. So this is a day before shooting. And I'm taken to the wonderful Albuquerque Children's Hospital, where I go for 24 hours, and I'm just kept there, not eating, anything, IV, full on, the whole thing. And then I show up to set, and I'm white as a sheet. And we shot that scene where we come out of the bus, the school bus, with the umbrella. And John took my dad aside and said, I don't know what happened in that hospital, but keep him out of the sun. He's literally glowing. And that really helped.
Challenging and a funny story. All right. Let's go down to this end, actually. You guys have intentions. Yeah. All right, Alex.
I think all of the moments in Albuquerque with Luke, Sarah, and Finn were a bunch of fun. And I think a lot of those scenes where we were dealing with the dog were just absolutely, was one of the most crazy things ever, because that dog did not listen. And I think some of the more difficult stuff is when we started to do the more physical stuff with Luke and I. We had to deal with making sure all of that was coordinated well, and that's always difficult, but otherwise, everything really ran smoothly on this set, so there wasn't a lot of difficulty.
Oh gosh. My scenes weren't the happiest ones in the world. I had a similar altitude sickness. I was spewing in between takes in the final scene that I had with Ansel. Do you remember that? And we actually had to turn around and do Ansel's coverage first. I was running to the bathroom, and I had rashes all over my face that erupted from going up into the Albuquerque altitude. So yeah, it was delightful.
What kind of set were we on? Everyone's blowing up everywhere.
The movies, they're glamorous, aren't they?
The glamour.
Listen, I'm getting the signal, we're actually out of time, unfortunately, so we are going to have to leave it there, but thank you so much for coming, and I just want to ask you to thank the team from the Goldfinch, Oaks Fegley, Ashley Cummings, Annerin Barnard, Luke Wilson, Finn Wolfhard, Sarah Paulson, Ansel Elgort, and director John Crowley.